And I want to keep helping people understand about MS and to think more positively about it. And I want to work with them with W1PR to help people learn about how they can really share and share well, and to know where to go to get help. So many different treatments. There's different natural treatments as well, lifestyle things that can help. Even losing a few pounds. I know when I dropped some weight, I felt much better for it. Ultimately, it can't buy your health and your happiness. And when I had the drug reaction, that was a wake-up call. So I had to change again, but I had to change my lifestyle significantly. I have this kind of philosophy: live for today, just make sure you can afford to get through tomorrow if it comes.
My biggest takeaway from you today, I think, is asking for help. I think it can be your greatest asset, being vulnerable, but so many of us don't want to be.
No.
We've been taught to be the tough guy. You've been taught to be the strong woman, and yet without opening up a little bit, no one can help you. This week on the show, we are joined by Kaz Aston. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 20 some odd years ago, and she decided to make the choice to use that diagnosis as a chance to actually start living her life. And she picked up things like drag racing and professional yachting and cannonball racing to show herself and people around her that she could live with this disease. And actually, I was shocked to learn that 3 times as many women suffer from this as men. And it's something that I think as a culture, we're learning to understand and realize that people can live through this. And what was really good about having Kaz in the studio is that it made me realize that so many of us that walk around these streets here in London, we feel debilitated by not even having a disease, and we feel like we can't take action in our lives because of all these small problems. And when we meet someone like Kaz, who has a potentially life-threatening disease, and to see the way that she just goes after life and takes up these challenges, I think it's really empowering for us, and it's almost a guide to the rest of us who are maybe physically healthier, that we should really step up and get out there and experience all the beautiful things that life has to offer. And so I really enjoyed my time with Kaz. She's fascinating. We talked about the Rotary Club. We talked about the Royals. Of course, we talked about multiple sclerosis and marketing and everything. So sit back. I think you're going to enjoy my time with her very, very much. And I had a man by the name of Chen this week in my studio for Real Talk. And it was really fascinating to hear his story. He came from Israel to London about 2 years ago, and he was really kind of lost. He had gotten to his mind that he needed to make money before his message could be really valued by other people. And he joined the academy, and he realizes that actually that wasn't important, that what he really needed to do was have a vision and empower other people and broadcast his message. And so he told me how he's been inspired by everything that happened inside the academy and the academy members, and he's now going to go on and start broadcasting his own show. I think he's planning on going back to Israel, and it was really, really enlightening. So check that out on YouTube if you like. And again, I'm always feeling super empowered by all these incredible people inside the academy. And now I'm going to leave you with Kaz Aston. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Kaz Aston, the disability rights campaigner who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 21 years ago. Despite your disease, you picked up sports like drag racing, cannonball races, and sailing to raise funds and the public consciousness for people who suffer from MS. You work extensively in public relations and are the editor for the British Medical Journal, Open Heart Online, and Oyster Healthcare. Kaz, welcome to London Real.
Hello, Brian.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
I really want to learn a lot about you. I want to learn a bit about multiple sclerosis. I don't know enough about it. We were talking a little bit about it earlier. And of course, I need to hear about the drag racing at some point. Can you tell us, do you still remember that time 21 years ago when you got the diagnosis? I know you were saying today, back then, wasn't a lot of information. You couldn't really go to social media. You probably couldn't go to YouTube and find other people that were living with that disease. Was that a kind of thing that really kind of stopped your life short at that point?
Well, it was a bit of a shock. It was, in some respects, it was very good news because I thought it could have been worse. You know, you're thinking, oh gosh, what's wrong with me? But it was sort of like, okay. And I was working on a neurological unit as a nurse. So I was seeing all the worst case scenarios. So I was thinking, okay. But, you know, also because I was training as a nurse at that point, I could actually look at it a little bit more objectively and think, well, what's this all about? So it was a bit of a shock. I knew that it could mean a lot of things in my life, but I was determined to think, well, okay, I can't change this. I've been given this card. This is what I've got to live with. So let's make it as best, you know, the best way I can to make my MS happy.
And did you go right in and start researching the disease itself, like different types of treatments or different people that had experienced the disease, or what is like the next step when you get?
Well, for me, I wanted information, and MS and information go hand in hand. The more information you've got, the better. I mean, everyone goes, knowledge is power, and I believe that because the more I learned about my MS, I was a bit scared. Some of the stuff I thought, you know, I read some controversial stuff about MS with, you know, whether it be having children, whether it be new treatments that were kind of looming, but now we're in a different place. When I was diagnosed, the treatment options were limited. There was a new one coming out and I thought, I want that. I'm going to get that drug. I don't care. I will fit the criteria. Whatever happens, I'm going to have it. And I did actually fit the criteria and I did get the drug when it came out. And I did that for 10 years. But at that point, it was limited. So it was scary. I was thinking, okay, children, marriage, ooh, okay. So lots of big decisions. And so you're craving information thinking, well, perhaps I'll go and have hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Because I trained in Portsmouth, so I was there with the Navy and we had a hyperbaric oxygen chamber with an MS society. So there was all these options and I was thinking, right, vitamins, take handfuls every day, take everything that can make your life better with MS. So I was trying everything. I was looking at opportunities every step of the way. And I think probably I still am, but not quite, maybe not quite, I wouldn't say aggressively, but I was just looking for solutions. I was looking at, well, if that happens, you know, and when I was diagnosed, I had optical problems, so it was visionary eyesight things. So I didn't really have any other symptoms apart from tiredness. Okay. And tiredness is a big thing.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to people seeking out information, I mean, you worked as a nurse for so long, so I'm sure you see equivalents like people who get cancer and then they're obsessed with the latest treatment, going holistic, going Eastern medicine, not Western medicine. Yeah. And I guess in a weird way, the disease like that can almost consume your life in the wrong way, where you end up trying to seek out all of the solutions. Yeah. Whereas it seems like you're all about trying to live the most fulfilling life you can live and still continue with that disease. I mean, is that things that other people can learn when they're diagnosed with something so serious? Well,
I think the thing is, there's so much information. In the UK, we're very fortunate because we've got several MS charities, the MS Society, the MS Trust. Sorry if I don't mention anyone here, but there's some big charities that do some great work and they've got some good publications that you can read online. Because sometimes when you're diagnosed, there's lots of questions. And I always used to say when I was a nurse to my patients, write them down. There's going to be lots of questions, different times of your life, but position yourself so you can access people that can help you. It could be an MS charity, it could be an MS nurse, but most importantly, your MS team are the people that are there to help you and to answer some of those questions. And they've got lots of information booklets as well, which the charities also produce. So that's helpful because you just want answers. Sometimes you don't want too much because you've got to digest it and think about the consequences, about how that's going to pan out in your life. And you don't know. You really don't know. And it's like neurologists are looking into the future. It's like, well, you've got to have 2 episodes for it to be MS. So they're having to look into the future and think, well, that could go like this could go like that. But, with your MS, you could have a great day. You could be up here, or you might be absolutely exhausted and not be able to get out of bed.
Right. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I'm curious if you had to explain to her what MS is, what would you say? And I guess on that same note, what do you say to most people when they ask you and just don't know enough about it? How can you describe to them what it's like, what the future looks like for you?
Well, I think for me, Brian, it's actually factual information first. Well, MS is a neurological condition. It affects 3 parts of the body: the brain, the optic nerve, the nerve from the eye. So your vision, which I said to you, I experienced inflammation of that. So my eyesight went wonky. I thought I'd been partying too much. I'm thinking I can't see properly.
It's a little scary, right?
Yeah, and your nervous system, and these are the parts that it affects. It's unpredictable. It's a neurological condition that affects 3 times as many, we've just found that out, it was 2 times, but now 3 times as many women as men. It tends to be diagnosed quite often with people in their 20s and 30s, but can be diagnosed later in life. You need these incidents where you've had 2 episodes, you've got 2 parts which are showing problems with communication with the brain. So it may be that you're tired, it might be that you've got a tremor, it might be you're walking. It might be the fact you've got a problem with your bladder. You might want to go to the toilet a bit more, or you might just feel a little bit dizzy because you can't balance. It could be so wide-reaching. There's so many different symptoms with MS that are unpredictable. So explaining it to someone is, well, it's a neurological, so it affects the brain. It can be quite bad in some people, but that's only a small proportion of people that it can be quite bad. A lot of people tend to carry on and they manage it. And what's the best way of managing it? With a disease-modifying therapy, and looking at your lifestyle to make sure that you're not overdoing it, that you're balancing your lifestyle right. So, some people don't like MS treatments and they won't take them. Fair enough. Some people manage their MS with diet, but for people, MS is a little bit of an enigma because it's so different with everybody.
Right, but it can be life-threatening, right?
It can cause symptoms. MS won't kill you, but symptoms of it can give you some difficulties, and people sometimes can die earlier because of problems that they have. They may not be as mobile, so they've got problems with mobility, which then leads to problems with their heart and their circulatory system. There's lots of different systems it can be involved with.
Okay.
And that's your brain as well, your speech, your eyes, everything. Every system in your body can be affected, and like it can with any illness.
Okay. Now you got sick 8 years ago or so.
Yeah.
Was it MS related to something
Well, I had
that happened?
a really, really bad reaction, which is, the law of averages, isn't it? Someone's going to be the one that has a reaction. I had a reaction to it. It upset all of my blood levels, and it really upset my MS, to be honest. I mean, my balance was not right. It affected my mobility and my walking. And I was thinking, wow, and I had a really good job, and I was trying to perform, to work, to live a normal life, and that for me was a big challenge. So, yeah, it was difficult to take all of that on, but then I had to stop because I had to get the upset in my blood system out. So it took time. And then I had to learn to do some of the things again properly. So I'm not grabbing hold of equipment, you're improving your balance with exercises, with physiotherapy and lifestyle.
Okay, because you seem fairly healthy to me now.
Yeah.
And when you're walking around fine, you're talking. Yeah. If I met you on the...
you wouldn't know.
I would never know.
No.
And that's because you know how to manage it and because you know how to not overwork yourself.
Yeah, and that is the key.
Okay.
And I think concentration, we were talking about that earlier, for me, concentrating for 15 to 20 minutes, stop, pause is great, because the more I concentrate, the more I keep trying to go. And sometimes they call it brain fog, or they call it, and it's just like, whoa. And it's almost like time out, stop. And that's how I have to do it, to make sure, because otherwise it's not good. And I think actually probably people with MS are so hard, they're so committed, they want to do well, they But for example, getting into work, as we know, commuting on the tubes, on the trains, that takes up so much energy. So before you've even got to work, you're exhausted. So again, it's looking at different ways of working, I think, Brian. It's the key thing for me, just managing it better.
Why 3 times as many women as men? Do we know why that is?
Well, to be honest, I haven't been given a definitive, I'm sure there is, and apologies to the neurologists and everybody in the world, but, a lot of men are diagnosed with MS, don't get me wrong. There are men out there with MS, but maybe that's something I can come back and give you the latest cutting edge research on, because research is coming out all the time and we might have some more information about it, because it's a relatively new condition, really. So we're finding new drug treatments. The MS treatment landscape's brilliant at the moment. It's like, which one do you want? Before, as I said to you, when I started, it was like, well, steroids if you're really bad, and maybe that one, possibly.
Right.
But now there's so many different treatments. There's different natural treatments as well, lifestyle things that can help. Even losing a few pounds. I know when I dropped some weight, I felt much better for it.
Really?
Your
You
diet.
feel better, okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And there are some lifestyle issues that can make it worse?
Yeah, I think,
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to that management of time, work, which, we live in a culture of work. Business is business. You've got to perform, you've got to do well. But, if we take it back to the olden days, people used to work and pause and work and pause, and I think that's a good approach for MS, really, is managing your time and actually balancing it, because then you can work. And maybe, you can work just as long or even harder than someone who hasn't got MS. So I think possibly, if you put the right elements into your lifestyle and take care of your diet, because there's certain foods that help your brain to function and your nervous system, supplements and vitamins as well.
Right. And 110,000 people in the UK suffer from it as well.
Yeah, and children. Yeah, children are diagnosed. I mean, that breaks my heart. That really upsets me when I get an email from someone that's a mum or someone, and they're saying, I fed her everything well. And I'm saying, I know, my mum said that to me. Well, we fed you nice things. We did this, we did that. But you can't change this. Diagnostics are much better these days, so they can diagnose you quicker. But yes, children can have it. And, 110,000 people in the UK. And there's some people that they're not quite sure of, so it could be more than that.
Right.
Statistics are changing, but that's on average.
How do you think we treat our kind of disabled and sick in this country? I mean, I read one time that a society is almost judged by how well they look after the people who aren't as capable as everyone else. And if you look at some societies, it's just like impossible. And some really go out of their way with handicapped spaces, with looking out and trying to be aware. How do you think we're doing right now?
I think we're doing really well, actually.
Okay.
I think we are, because, as from a patient experience, it's down to where you live, and then your council and your healthcare team, and everybody looks after you accordingly. And of course, some areas do things differently. Some areas might have other priorities. But on the whole, I do personally believe the treatment opportunities are good for people. The lifestyle support mechanisms with the councils, with the healthcare, because you've got health and social. It's the whole landscape that you've got to think about. It's working together with these people to get the balance right. You might need a bit of extra support. Sometimes, you might, as I did, you had a bit of a reaction to something, or you're having a tough time, whatever's happened. Having a cold can upset my MS. You need a bit of help. So sometimes, it might be help to manage your kids, not to manage your MS. You just need to get that balance right. So it's looking at your whole lifestyle and what can actually, and I knew that as a district nurse, you've got to look at what's missing, what could help you get through the day better, what's going to make you happy, because I think that's really important. I always say when I'm working on projects these days, I've got to have fun as well. And I think that's a big thing for people with MS, to enjoy their lives as well. That's important. But the services are great. And like you said, there's a lot more facilities for disabled people. There's a lot more engagement with disabled people, on any level, really, that they're getting involved with various things. And access, I think, is pretty good in certain areas for vehicles, for wheelchairs, for whatever equipment that you need. It might be a stick, or you might just need to sit down a bit more.
So you're happy with the government, you're happy with the NHS?
I was a little bit stressed when it came, and then I stepped up to the plate with all the disability change, and I said, whoa, stop. And I went on Newsnight and fought the corner on that because it was too soon and push. And it's like the consequences, let's look at this properly. And I'm glad that they delayed that.
What didn't they like? What didn't you like that they were doing?
I just didn't like the fact that they were rushing it through without thinking through the consequences, without giving people an opportunity to think what it means for them. A lot of people were going to lose a lot of money, which could affect the way that they live their lives, the way that they manage their MS, for me, But also, I just think it was not well thought through. It was an idea, it was like, quick, let's do that. And I said, woo, no. Because you can't just do that. You need to think about the consequences. You need to think about how the country's going to pay for all of these things as well. You've got to think about, well, if people can't get that support anymore, what's it going to do to their health? That's going to cost more money. There are fors and against for everything. So I'm glad that they stopped that. And I'm glad, actually, that, they're thinking it through properly, because that's, to me, what was missing. It was a rush, quick win, let's get the disabled bit sorted out.
Right. And again, do you think you're going to always have to make sure that they remember disabled rights and remember some of these funding issues, because
absolutely.
It's easy for that to get ignored, right?
Yeah, no, I think so. And particularly with something like MS, because you can look at someone and you might not even know that they've got anything wrong with them. And that's just MS. There's lots of other conditions where people look the same, they look perfectly healthy, and they might just have problems that you don't see. They're hidden sort of illnesses or problems that they're having. So yeah, I think particularly to get change in any situation, you've got to keep vocal, you've got to keep on it, and you've got to keep your eye on things, because things can just sometimes be pushed through. And and I always say, well, I won't work for a charity, I work with all of them, because I don't want to be deemed as biased to one area. I'm like, well, this is me, these are my choices. I don't want to be in one team which is going to make me think not about other opportunities or other areas in my life. So I think you've got to be balanced with it.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking about how we do kind of interact with our disabled and how we treat them, and do we give them the parking spaces they need? Do we give them the ramps?
Yeah.
Do we allow them to participate in the social events and the sporting events? And I think that really says a lot about us as a society.
Yeah.
When I was 10, my grandfather had a stroke. And so this big, strong guy that I knew all of a sudden was in a wheelchair, and he was the kind of guy that kind of used that, a bit like you, to kind of put his foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden he was almost more active, and he was like, driving around and like in the golf cart and like moving, doing business. Yeah. And so for me, he set an amazing example as a grandchild to see, okay, this didn't stop this man, and that we would just take a little longer to get grandpa into the car, but he was almost more active.
Yeah.
Sometimes outworking the rest of us.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and because you've got something to prove, because people are thinking you can't do that because of that. Yeah.
Right. Now talk to me about your drag racing. Was that part of you to say, I want to prove this, or do you just love PR, or what was that all about, Kaz?
Well, I actually really love cars.
Okay.
And I went to watch, because I'd never seen it. I just thought they did it at the traffic lights in America. I just thought drag racing was just kind of like who could get there the fastest, which is what drag racing is all about. But I didn't realise, and my friend took me to watch some drag racing, and I thought, wow, I want to go at that. And I want to go at that to see what it's like, because you could go in this 2-seater dragster.
Okay.
And I'll try and do it for some fundraising. Yeah, I'm going to have a trip in it, so that's my privilege. But let's use it, because it's the fastest drag racing is the fastest motorsport on earth.
Yeah, they do a quarter mile from stop
Yeah.
to what, 200 and something miles an hour?
300 plus.
Right.
I mean, honestly, it's like, ooh,
I've seen it. It's big in America, right? And it's big here to a certain extent?
Yeah, across the whole of Europe. I mean, I'd heard about it, and I was then in the home of drag racing in the UK, which houses the European Championships, a lot of American drivers, riders if they're on their bikes, and it's fantastic. It's really interesting.
And did you get some extra access because of you and your condition? Or
do you know, I went there. I did this 2-seater dragster, which actually turned out to be a really top British drag racing person. I didn't know that. I got in the car and it was amazing, and I just wanted it to keep going. A quarter of a mile wasn't far enough. And I thought,
you scared? Because it's quite an acceleration.
Wow, it's a big kick up on the start line when you're actually pulling, which in some of them, the the full blown top fuel cars, they'll pull about 6 or 7 G, I think, off the start line, and it's like boom.
It's like a rocket launch.
I just thought, wow, I did this, and I've got MS, yay! And I just really liked it. Then I got on to, they did a radio interview, and then I ended up doing radio interviews with all the racing drivers because I just learned how to do it. And I was fascinated by it. And, you know, that's what opened up that door. And we were then supporting all the charities with the radio station, with Nitro FM at Santa Pod, and it was great.
Wow.
It was really good. And I'm like, tell me how it, you know, and they showed me how to sort of how all the engines and everything were because there's lots of different classes. You know, you can go in there in your street car. We could go and do it in our cars. You know, it depends on what class you're racing in. But I was fascinated by it. I was absolutely, wow, 8,000 brake horsepower.
Yeah, they're these huge beastly machines with the huge back wheels and the tiny front wheels, right?
Yeah, they get bigger, and then the traction, and I was thinking, right. And then I decided to do some. Which I did. I even went over to America.
Okay.
And when I did
Where in America did you
I
do?
went over to the Frank Hawley School of Drag Racing in Gainesville.
Oh, okay. North Carolina or something?
Not far. Yeah,
I should know what city it's straight. We'll check it out. Okay.
Yeah, so I went there and I did the course, you know, and I was like, oh, you know, and it was like I did this freedom flight, 7 seconds or whatever, and I'm like, right, that's it now, I'm retiring.
Do you drive solo?
Yeah.
Really?
And I got told off as well. And I'm sorry, Frank, for that. But I just went too far because I was just like, whoa, this is great.
You went past the quarter mile?
Yeah. Well, I just drove to the end of the track. It was one of the longest tracks. And I just, you know, I was in control. But I just...
Because you can wreck those things, too.
You can. And yeah, you can. And they can, yeah. But I listened to all my training. It was a great experience. And I thought, wow. But it's quite an expensive sport. And I thought, how can I be supporting charity when I'm doing something that, because they wanted me to drive a top fuel car.
Okay.
And I was like, woo! Because there's lots of females now coming into the sport, which is great as well. Because it was one of those where there was only a few drivers. So, yeah, especially with someone with MS, you know, and I was like, said to my neurologist, I was like, Dr. Nicholas, can I do this? Well, let's go through it. Yep, okay.
And you can?
Yeah. And this is the thing that I want to message to get off. Don't let MS stop you doing anything. Talk to your MS team. See how you're feeling. Some things are going to be a little bit unachievable as they are for me to do, but, you know, don't write yourself off until you've got more information about it and you see if you can try. And you might need to do it in a different way, that's all. I
searched, YouTube for multiple sclerosis, and there's like lots of these vlogs by these young women.
Yeah.
That are like, I've got this, and I'm continuing with this business. And I'm guessing there's a lot of women out there that you need to get this message to. Yes,
absolutely. And I think that's the biggest thing. Don't give up. It's a bit of a shock to the system, but don't let it stop you doing anything.
It's strange because so many of us wake up in the morning and have a hard time dealing with life in general, let alone our multiple sclerosis diagnosis, which might mean, I don't know, reactions to, to anything, drugs or tiredness or that kind of thing. What do you think we can learn from you when it comes to how we live our life? Because for you, I mean, of course, none of us are guaranteed another day in this world, but some of us forget that truism very quickly. I'm guessing you're kind of constantly reminded about that. But in a way, maybe that makes you live a different life. Well, I think I have this kind of philosophy. Live for today, just make sure you can afford to get through tomorrow if it comes. So that's my sister's a banking person, and I always try to be a bit kind of like, well, don't be so ridiculous. But no, I like to enjoy every day. I mean, you said that at the beginning, and I just think, no. And if I can't do it, then I'll find out I can't do it. And because I've got a great MS team and great support network, they will tell me, maybe that's not the best. But also as well, they'll encourage me to try it and to find out. And I think sometimes you need to try that maybe it's not the best option. Right. Do you have other people that connect with you that just have different diseases, not MS, that say, wow, you're empowered with that. Maybe I can be empowered with, living with cancer or these other types of things where, they just see there is life after diagnosis. Because so many people, I'm guessing with HIV and all these things that, especially something like HIV, which used to almost be a death sentence 20 years ago, now many people live with it. But again, it seems like they could take a few notes from your book. Yeah, I think it is. It's that, and a lot of people, and when going back to my nursing days,
it was looking after lots of different conditions, lots of different problems. I remember when the HIV, and like you said, learning to manage it, get the right medication. And I think if you get the balance right, that is a big thing for me, getting the balance right with your life. You can do anything, you know, but sometimes it may not be the best option. I was saying to my friends last weekend, you know, about flying, because with MS, you're not allowed to fly a plane.
Okay, right.
You know, and I was like, I said to my friend,
but you can do a drag race.
But I said to my friend, he said, don't worry, Karen, you could do it. You could be a co-pilot, you know. And then we went to this thing, and I was sat there in this co-pilot thing and doing it, you know, and trying it. But you've got to be realistic about certain things. But there are other options. And I think as well, going back to your point about people with disabilities, the way that the government in the UK thinks as well, they're always looking at different ways to make situations easier to manage, but also to look at ways that people can try things and do things and live with things, you know, whatever health condition you've got, you know. And I think that's the whole thing about working. I'm a big thing for me about keeping working, keeping part of society. And that, to me, overlaps into a lot of things. And probably because I had to stop when I had a reaction, and, you know, because I was like, go.
Right. Did that end your nursing career when you had that reaction?
Well, I mean, at that point, I'd gone on to bigger and different things. I was working for NHS England, because I thought, well, you know, if you're giving someone an injection, it's not good if you've got a shaky hand, is it? Really? And you've got a needle in your hand or whatever. And also the shifts. Nursing's pretty tough.
Yeah.
The shifts, moving patients to get them, you know, district nursing was in the community, so it wasn't quite as physical. But there came a point where it was just not the best option for me. So I had to, you know, and people have to do that with life anyway, don't they? You know, you're changing your jobs, you get new opportunities. And I just thought, no. But after the reaction to the drug treatment that I unfortunately had, and then ended up doing the drag racing, charity stuff, and then I got into sort of the media element with Nitro FM, and that opened up the options that I'm looking at now. So it opened as a result, but I couldn't keep that up. I just couldn't. And I decided this year, I thought, I'm not going to stay on the register. I can't do it, you know, and that. It was like 20 years later, and I kept going with it because I was doing all the study days for MS, and I met all the requirements. And I thought, hold on a minute, but you're not doing that anymore. You're doing different things. You're more into the PR, you're more into working with entrepreneurs, with small businesses, consultants to give them an opportunity, people with MS to help them keep them in work, you know. So it just wasn't applicable to my life anymore. It was sad. I've still got my uniform and I've still got my silver belt.
Okay, but you're not registered anymore.
No, I decided this year, no.
Okay. And you sounds like you're constantly pushing the envelope and seeing what you can get away with. When was the time where you pushed it too far and you're just like, okay, I can't do this. I'm too tired to do this. Because it sounds like you're constantly trying to find that edge.
Well, I'm always looking for another way or other opportunities. And I think it was like when I was newly qualified, and I was you know, because you don't earn much as a nurse, to be perfectly honest. I'm not waving a flag here for underpaid nurses and public sector people. I'm just stating fact, you know. And I was doing some extra shifts and things, and I had to stop doing that. I couldn't do it anymore because I didn't have the energy, you know. And I thought, so it was something when I was, I suppose, getting into my early kind of 30s that I thought, no, stop. What are you trying to achieve? What are you really trying to achieve here, you know? Yeah, you're making a bit more money, but ultimately it can't buy your health and your happiness. It can buy certain things that might make it better, but, you know, and I just had to stop. And when I had the drug reaction, that was a wake-up call. Right. And I think that was the thing that it was like, right, you've got to stop now, because all I kept doing was running to the toilet and throwing up. Okay. You know, so that was all you know, I had to. And I changed. I had to change again. And I think we're all changing all the time, whether it be for whatever reason in our lives, but I had to change my lifestyle significantly.
What's it like doing charity work? I think you told me that sometimes it's kind of lonely work sometimes, and I guess probably some people think charity work is all rainbows and flowers, whereas I'm guessing, first of all, it's hard work. I think a lot of people don't understand that they're just as much businesses as other businesses. What is it like? Well,
to be honest, it is quite lonely. You're on your own. And that's one of the reasons that's driven me to do other things as well, to you know, because you are working on you. You've got to keep motivated. You've got to manage yourself. And plus with me, with the fatigue, with the MS, that's harder. So you've really got to get a handle on managing your time to get the best out of it. or where you're going to work from, your office location, and working from home. I saw a big thing on the tube station about don't kill yourself, work from home more. And it's true. And that's what I had to do. I had to sort of make those changes to achieve that. Because I think you can achieve anything in life, maybe not quite as quickly as maybe, you don't know. But I looked at different ways of working and different opportunities. And as I said, this kind of like looking at if you're on your own, who can support me? Entrepreneurs and people working on their own don't always have that support mechanism, and they don't always have that help, particularly with PR. A lot of people think it's only for big companies, PR, and it's not. If you want to share information on social media or in print or on film or whatever, it's a great way of doing that. So, for me, all of those different angles are all something that I had to think about, which are everyday things, really. But they're all extra skills that I had to learn.
Talk to me about PR. What can you teach us even about PR? You have incredible followings on Twitter. You're very active in lots of different organizations. You obviously know something we don't when it comes to spreading the message.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say that. I know from all the years that I've been doing it, it takes a long time. Working with the power on Twitter, the power tweeters, the big boys and girls, that have got a lot of followers. But followers don't always necessarily, I don't ask my Twitter followers unless it's something really important to retweet. It's not actually very fashionable at the moment, Brian, to do the retweeting.
Oh, to retweet or to ask for the retweet?
Well, to ask for it and to do it.
Okay.
I mean, it's got to be, what's the word now? Everything. And my friends keep saying it. It's driving me bonkers. We need to grow it organically, Kaz. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I think that's the thing, really. It's actually sending out information, and it's information that's worth reading, to be honest, because a lot of people, I got out of bed and I had a cup of coffee. Great. That's not really going to make any difference to my life. But some people like to share that. But actually, it's reaching out to people and sharing information that's useful and helpful for them to have. And for me, I found that through social media. And I quite like the fact, as I said earlier, it's free as well at the moment. But there's ways that you can link together with other organisations. You can get support from other organisations, and you can build and build. And it takes time. It takes a lot of followers to get. You don't know. It may not. You might just send something out on Twitter and you might trend. Trending's a lot harder. It's not easy to do those sorts of things. But to do it right and to do it well, the PR element for me, because I've got a really good guru in Rotary, Paul Winner, helps me massively, as a fellow Rotarian, but also in learning about some of the tricks of the trade, how you can actually help people to understand what they're buying into, what they're learning about and what they're sharing. And that's really important for PR.
Yeah, the share and the like, they're very distinct pieces, say on Facebook, or the retweet and the like. And if you get people liking your stuff, it doesn't really mean that much. But when they share it, you've really hit something deep inside them. Yeah. And it's actually the dynamics behind a share are quite complicated. And a lot of times people share funny things because they want to be seen as funny. They share cool things because they kind of want to be seen as cool. Yeah. And it really does show you what kind of, I guess, clout someone has on social media. And like you said, followers doesn't always determine everything.
No. At the time of the day that you're tweeting, it's like one of my friends are like, I've got to get up in the middle of the night. And I said, why? I said, I've got to tap into the American audience. And again, it is the time that you send the tweets. Sometimes it's not sending too many. Sometimes it's reiterating. It's like when I said, well, you can watch this show on, and I sent it out a couple of times, and some of the networks will send it out a couple of times. But also as well, it's not annoying people. Some people are just relentless, and I think you've got to get that balance right there as well. So you're sharing and you're caring, but you're giving somewhere a start, a middle and an end, or so they can keep going around, to find out more information. If it's just me, I think that's fine sometimes, but I think you've got to get that right, because people would just get bored.
You need to add a lot of value these days.
Yeah, you do.
Tell me about the Rotary Club. I don't know much about it. The one that you work with here in London is one of the oldest ones, or the oldest one. But what is it? Because I don't even know exactly what it is, but I know it's a very prominent organization around the world. So,
well, you said it. I'm a member of the Rotary Club of London, which meets in Mayfair at the moment. It's the oldest club in the UK because you register it. It's come over from Rotary is from America. Yeah.
God bless the Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it's a global, it's a big international charitable organisation. It's business people that get together, different ages, particularly in the area that you live. It could be really young members. We've got Rotaract for younger people. We've got Rotary for people, we've got members in the Rotary Club of London that are in their early to late 20s. It depends what you want out of it. Some people just come to see it. They want to help their business. They want to learn from some older people, because there are some older people there as well.
Okay.
So you can go there, you can get involved with a committee, an area that you like working with. For me, I'm in the PR and the communications world, and I've got a Rotary International position all about image. And it's exactly this, to help people understand what Rotary is all about. Because you think, well, I see it on the roundabouts. Is that something to do with cars? Is it watches? Is it? And I'm thinking, well, no, Rotary is all about working together, service above self. It's not about you, it's about helping charitable causes. If they're in your own area, in London, in the UK, because we've got Rotary UK and Great Britain and Ireland, and then internationally as well. So we partner with other clubs around the world. So, there's over 1.2 million Rotarians worldwide. And we all get together, we get together to support different campaigns, whether it be to end polio. Polio is a big one that we've been working on, to eradicate polio in countries around the world. So we've all worked together with that. It might be, I came in today with my Purple for Polio teddy bear,
yes.
And that's something for me that it's a way of helping people understand that unfortunately in a couple of countries there's still problems with polio. We got rid of it years ago, but it's a very ugly, debilitating disease. So that's one thing that Rotary's done really well. And with Mr. Gates from America, Mr. Microsoft, he's really championed it. He said, well, every pound you raise, I'm going to double or triple it. And that's amazing. So we're working internationally with all these different causes, all these different things, and we really do make a difference. We take projects on. It could be that we do something for disabled kids. For the Olympics, I did something for a school in Edmonton to help them and took them to the Olympics. It could be that we're having fun days out as well. So you actually get something back. You're putting into your local communities, fundraising, supporting, education, whatever it might be. But we're also helping people to get together and have a good time. And that's really important too.
Do you think in this day and age of the social media, look what I'm doing right now, that people sometimes forget, about that whole concept of giving and doing other things for others? Do you think maybe we're not even taught it very young, that we have to be giving?
I think, to be honest, some people are from the word go. And some of these little kids that you see running around doing some wonderful stuff for charity are absolutely amazing. And disabled kids, we were talking about that, But I think it's a good starting point to help people understand on a local level, in the local community, say, for example, in London, or on the country you live in. And it helps you to understand some of the challenges, whether it be getting clean water, whether it be something to do with helping children to be able to read and learn, to have some books to learn with, and we might be helping whatever country, and that's why we have different committees with international focus or local community focus. It's so nice because we can get involved with different projects, and there's sort of, some of them go on for years and some of them are short term, and it does help you to understand the consequence of some of these problems, because like you say, there might be a problem with it, but you don't really understand. And that's one of the big things that Rotary's good at, is helping people understand.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation for free by clicking on the link below to visit our website, and I'll see you on the inside.
Ask for help when you need it, because there's loads of opportunities, and don't stop yourself from doing anything. If you can't do it, at least you tried. Do your best, enjoy yourself every single day of your life, but don't be too hard on yourself, because sometimes that's, when you fail, because we quite often fail when we try something for the first time, or we might do really well and we try it again and it's not very good or whatever, but don't be too hard on yourself.